You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive coverage of the ETSI NFV number 9 meeting here in Prague in the Czech Republic. And I'm joined now by Don Clark, who is Principal Architect Network Technologies at Cable Labs. Don, thanks for joining us on TelecomTV again. Don, you co-founded the NFV ISG with operators, with service providers. It was collaboration between that community. Are we still seeing that degree of collaboration amongst telcos and service providers as they start to hopefully share best practices and their own experiences?
Well, not only are we still seeing it, it's actually increasing. So we have established such a high degree of trust amongst each other in terms of what the priorities are for NFV that we are now seeing more proactive input even from some operators that before were less proactive in terms of their input. So that's really good, and we're taking action to make sure that what we do here is going to deliver what we need, and that's a very collaborative activity amongst the operators. We've got operators that travel to Europe that from the United States and Asia that haven't been before, so the degree of commitment has actually increased through phase 2, and that was by no means certain that would happen.
So as we've moved through the phases in phase 2 now, there's a sense out there that everything's getting real, and that a lot of responsibilities is placed on the shoulders of the standards group to get NFV right.
That sense of responsibility is absolutely right, Guy. The idea that NFV is an academic R&D activity has completely disappeared. The shift in the industry is palpable. We're out there, and it's not a question of if this is going to happen. It's a question of when is it going to happen. Where are they going to be the first deployments? And so you're right, there is a sense of responsibility that this is real. There's real investments being made across the industry. Jobs are being created, jobs are being changed as a result of this. Industry colleagues that a year ago working in one company, now working in another company. Companies have come into the landscape, into networking that were purely in the IT space before. You're seeing really quite significant announcements by companies that have not been visible in this industry particularly before. So there is a sense of reality, and there is a sense of investment shifts across the industry. So therefore we are focused now on making sure that we get this work done quickly, that we focus on the right things, and that we take action where necessary to make sure that we get the results that the industry needs in a timely way.
And what has been the impact of the open source community on the work as you've been moving forward?
Well, those of us that got together in the beginning to found this particular body, we weren't standards people, and we are not standards people. We are R&D leaders that always recognise that in networks you can't just do R&D, publish results, and hope that the industry can adopt these things. Telecommunications is a disciplined, interoperable business, and so every innovation in telecommunications has to have a degree of standardization around it, so that you can ensure interoperability, that regulators can be satisfied, that the requirements of regulation can be met. So in our industry there is a discipline, and that requires standardization. So standardization is essential, but we're not standards people. But implementation was always our goal, and the trend towards open source became very obvious to us very early on. And so those of us that were part of the foundation of NFV also initiated what is now known as OPNFV. So those discussions between myself, Pradeep, Margaret, and some others, Uwe, Michel, Deutschtel, the same people actually initiated the original discussions that led to OPNFV. And that's very much about how do we integrate open source components and deliver carrier grade functionality. And what my vision for OPNFV, at least it's my vision, was always that would be an integration platform for open source. It would validate open source components, yes, but also be a baseline platform for the industry to take open source components in a baseline configuration and build upon those. And that way we don't replicate or seek to replicate and end up with different types of platforms. If you've got a baseline that everybody uses, then the insights that they generate on that platform can then be input back to us in terms of validation of specs. They can inform open source projects in a cooperative way. So you've got a number of things. You've got collaboration, you've got baselining, and you've got validation of our specs. So in our mind, that's the purpose of OPNFV. And so far, the collaborative ethos there is very, very, very good, and I'm excited that they're going to deliver what we need.
So as we move into seeing actual deployments with standards that are solid, they're right for the service providers, right for telco networks, what are the challenges that you see that we still need to overcome and address to realise the dream of wide-scale NFV in telco networks?
Well, clearly some operators have got to take some steps forward in terms of deployment trials so that the industry gets confidence that if those investments will be realised. But at the same time also, we have to be very clear in our specification work so that we do achieve interoperability in an open ecosystem. So what we don't want is simply to have the same integrated solutions coming from the same single sources as we had before. We want to leverage the openness of cloud and the ability to put these things together from best of class sources. So interoperability still remains the key objective, and validating that's key.
Great, excellent. Don Clark, thanks for joining us once again on TelecomTV.